Hi, my name is Jeremy with CJReform.info. How's this for a powerful image? You see a picture here of Gerald Dugan, who is a prosecutor who over 40 years ago convicted and sent to prison the other man in the photo, Kevin Brinkley. And the conviction was for a murder that it appears pretty clear now. Even the DA himself, the prosecutor, is convinced that Brinkley's brother committed, that it was not, in fact, Brinkley himself. So you have a situation here where there's a wrongful conviction. And Gerald Dugan has taken the time, clearly, to not only meet with Brinkley, spoke with his family as well, but actually apologized. And if you have a chance to read this article, I'll link it down below. It's pretty powerful. You can see there's genuine remorse in the prosecutor. He clearly, had a conscience that was nagging at him, and it probably will stay with him the rest of his life. Kevin Brinkley spent 40 years in prison for a crime that he didn't commit. Now, it might be a reaction to this type of thing from any camp, whether you're tend to be someone who's pro-prosecution or whether you're someone who's an advocate for felons and the incarcerated, or somewhere in between. You might think, well, he said sorry, but that's too little, too late. And of course, there is some truth to that. I'm sure even Dugan himself would concede to that. Yet, I want to say that this is no small thing. I happen to be blessed to work as a legal intern with the California Innocence Project, and I've done so for going on a year now. I've had the pleasure of meeting a number of exonerees through the organization itself, as well as at the National Innocence Conference, which was back in March. I have read numerous books on wrongful convictions, and then of course being involved in the casework itself through the Innocence Project. Usually the way these cases go, sadly, is that even when there is powerful evidence of innocence, the prosecutors, the DA office, etc., usually fight tooth and nail to not give up the battle, so to speak. It is one of the constant challenges of the Innocence Project and the Innocence Projects across this country is basically going up against prosecution offices that maintain the person's guilt. They want to maintain the conviction, and they want to my perspective, they want to look the other way when there is clear, demonstrable evidence that this person is in fact innocent. Now, there are of course examples like Gerald Dugan here, who we do have DAs, prosecutors who see an innocence situation and they stand by it and they support it, and that's great. I think it's something that is to their credit and it should happen more often. But my point by this is that this apology is more than just words. Usually a wrongfully convicted person, even one who is exonerated, and there's media attention, there's all these sorts of things, usually the prosecution is silent. It's kind of crickets. If they happen to have lost that battle, They go back to their corner, and that's it. The wrongfully convicted person, man or woman, has to begin picking up the pieces of their lives to the best of their ability, and the state's kind of like, that's it. See you later. You're on your own. No apology, no remorse, oftentimes no money, no compensation. Although those laws are changing slowly but surely, which is a great thing for criminal justice reform in general. But here, Gerald Dugan, he goes even beyond that. If you read the article, he is actually, and has already, it was his voice, his testimony, that enabled Brinkley's parole, because Brinkley has not been exonerated. But Gerald Dugan has kind of committed himself, this prosecutor who put Brinkley away for 40 years, is kind of made it his mission now to clear Brinkley's name. And I think that is awesome. It's powerful. When you have the chief prosecutor on the case conceding that he was wrong and saying this is not the person that committed this crime, I guarantee you that will have an effect. Wheels will begin to turn. People will listen. And that's a good thing. Innocence organizations across the country wish that when they would initiate innocence proceedings, that the same attention would be brought and that the wheels would begin to move as quickly, but it doesn't quite work that way. To my mind, this image was so powerful with that headline that a prosecutor is saying, I'm sorry, that I just had to talk about this and share it with you, and hope you guys get the chance to look into this case more. Please leave your thoughts, your comments. I love discussing these issues with you, as well as just continuing to raise awareness of the reality that Brinkley's story is not unique. It's not an isolated event. It's not like lightning striking. Wrongful convictions happen far more often than you'd ever love to imagine. They are kind of what they've been called the dirty little secret of the criminal justice world. That sometimes people who are completely innocent of a crime are accused, prosecuted, convicted, and sentenced, and eventually incarcerated for years, decades sometimes, for crimes that they did not commit. As I say often in posts, think about that. And I ask you to think about that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of this. Please, again, enjoy CJReform.info. I would love your input. And if you would like to be involved in terms of maybe contributing an article or in other such ways, please contact me at jds@cjreform.info. Thank you.